This is Sanandaj, a quiet sort of town in Persian Kurdistan. It's Friday, the Mohammedan day of public prayer, and the people are decked out in their best clothes. Everything peaceful, everything calm. But we had heard that somewhere in a back alley, a dervish dikra was taking place. And by all accounts, this was an affair where men worked themselves up into strange states of religious frenzy. This, we said, we have just got to film. Well, how foolish can you get? We not only tangled with the police, but nearly lost our cameras and film into the bargain. The dikra had already begun in the courtyard behind this innocent-looking baker's shop, its flat pancake loaves hanging out for anyone to buy. My companion Tom Stobart could scarcely believe that this was the threshold that led to sinister, spine-chilling rites. But our arrival had attracted notice, and already the police were moving up, for these ceremonies are now illegal as well as secret. Dervishes believe that they can best demonstrate complete faith in Allah by mortifying the flesh. This rhythmical nodding of the head is an exercise to produce a trance-like state. When they reach it, the participants are able to stick skewers through their flesh or to eat broken glass without any apparent signs of pain or discomfort. The Khalifa, or leader, is able to conduct the ritual in the early stages. But a point is usually reached when he loses control. Then anything can happen. Because we were told that the sectaries might run amok, and they all had knives, swords, or kebab skewers, we watched from the comparative safety of an upper room. After an hour or so of this, it looked as though something was going to give. And when we thought the point of climax was being reached, the police decided to carry out a raid. In fact, the climax had been reached. Our movie camera was violently snatched away. One of our still cameras did manage to catch some of the frenzy. We were lucky to escape with our equipment intact, for we come not really to film dervishes, but one of the most inaccessible and secret peoples, the Kurds. The Kurds are a fierce and proud race. No one is more intensely nationalistic, yet ironically they haven't a country to call their own. Kurds occupy parts of Persia, Russia, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, where they are fighting the central government of Baghdad. We had great difficulty obtaining permission to visit the Persian Kurds. Although they are peaceful at the moment, they do happen to be concentrated directly along the Iraq frontier and are obviously intensely interested in what's going on over the border. We took turn and turn about at the wheel during a long day's drive. When it was Tom's spell, I caught up with the news from home, a week old. Thousands of Kurds are nomads by preference. They like moving with the seasons to let the earth grow its new grass. Why live through a cold winter if by wandering south life in summer is possible all through the year? Why go to the trouble of burning fuel to keep warm when you can follow the sun easily and gently at a sheep's pace? Where there's green grass, water is somewhere about, even if you have to dig for it. When you have water and good green grass, you have fat, contented camels. This is a comparatively wealthy clan, judging by the size of its flocks. But as Kurds speak their own language, we couldn't make ourselves understood. Life in these well-ventilated pavilions made of goat's hair and erected on springy turf is very pleasant. The standard of living is often higher than that in many of the mud hut villages. Transporting baby over long distances is no problem in this travelling cradle. Kurdish women are far less shy than most Muslim women, and they don't wear the veil. But for the language difficulty, we might have stayed longer. In any case, we were anxious to push on, for an invitation had now arrived for us to visit the domain of one of the most powerful Kurdish chieftains in the country. When we reached his remote outpost, we were told we would see Kurdish tribal life at its freest. A happy life for males, where the women do all the hard work and the men attend to the more serious pursuits of riding fine horses and hunting. On the way, we came to the strange salt lake of Razaya, or Lake Urmia, to give it its ancient name. It's 100 miles long by about 35 broad. This is one of the oddest lakes in the world, as we were soon to find out. There is no life, either animal or vegetable, in the water or along the foreshore. The beach is composed entirely of common table salt. We handle the salt with a certain amount of skepticism, but there is absolutely no doubt of the quality. The locals dig it up and transfer it straight to their tables. The lake gets its water from snow melting on the surrounding mountains, but there is no outlet, and constant evaporation in the hot sun accounts for the billions of tons of salt. We didn't try swimming, but they say it's impossible to sink here. The town of Razaya stands right on the shores of the lake. It's a very cosmopolitan place with Persians, Turks and Kurds in about equal numbers. We had to stop here because it's the provincial headquarters of the secret police, and it's impossible to travel in a frontier district such as this without having your identity continually reaffirmed. Instead of kicking our heels about offices, we went straight to the bazaar. Kurdish goldwork, a necklace for a bride, worth about £20. I have been in scores of bazaars. This is an exceptionally well-built one with an airy canopy of brickwork, protected from the sun and cool. Here one can buy anything from camel harness to attar of roses. Wherever we went, we were accompanied by secret police in plain clothes, the type one soon comes to recognize. Razaya is well known as a center for Kurdish carpets. Because this town is right off the tourist beat, prices are reasonable, and bargains can still be found. especially the gaily patterned Kurdish galeems, or floor coverings originally intended for tents. After a bit of haggling, Tom bought this one for about £5. The merchant totted up the cost and the change on his abacus. Cones of sugar in the background, caps swinging under my nose. Shoes and sandals, many of them soled and heeled with old motor tires. Brassware, copperware, essential equipment whether you live in a mud hut or a tent. You can't pop round the corner in the desert to replace a broken cotton sorter. Samovars remind you that tea knows no frontiers. Not many miles to the north of us, a good proportion of the Kurdish race lived beyond the Russian border. Provided we got our passes in the end, we didn't mind, within reason, how long we waited. And in any case, we had to see the famous Jami Mosque, which stands in the center of the bazaar. This has been a holy place for at least 3,000 years, and once served as a temple for Zoroastrian fire worshippers. We took our shoes off just as Muslims do. It was a great privilege to be allowed inside, let alone being given permission to film as well. This is the oldest part of the mosque, open and bare, so that the worshippers can prostrate themselves, which in fact is what the Arabic word masjid means. This is the room of the mihrab. The mihrab is a niche, which indicates the direction of Mecca. Though it may be exquisitely decorated, the mihrab niche is always empty. It is simply a focal point that sets the faces of the faithful on the line to Mecca, where they find spiritual rendezvous with the rest of their brethren. A frieze of Kufic characters runs completely around the walls. It's a remarkable piece of decoration consisting of verses from the Quran carved in Arabic script. Both Kurds and Persians are predominantly Muslim, so Rizar seemed to us just about the last place to come across a Christian community. But what is even more astonishing, we found here a Christian community centered on a church which claims to be the burial place of the three wise men. It's known as the Church of St. Mary. One of the three wise men is traditionally a Persian. Whether he actually came from these parts is doubtful. But in the stillness of the sanctuary, I couldn't help thinking of the toilsome journey of this wise man who, 2,000 years ago, was moved to follow a star. Who, if we are to believe the traditions, lurched across deserts on his camel until without premeditation or prearrangement, he made a miraculous meeting with two others, a Negro and a Greek. And the three went on together to the stable in Bethlehem. At last our passes were cleared, and the police finally gave us permission to travel into the dangerous interior of Kurdistan. Beyond that horizon, Kurds across the border in Iraq are fighting a bitter guerrilla war. In fact, the whole of the frontier area is restive. Intruders in this behind-the-lines country could well be regarded as enemy agents. Neither Tom nor I felt too happy when we were rudely awakened from our driving days. It wasn't long before we found that this wild posse was part of the bodyguard of the Kurdish prince we had been invited to meet. Khan Amir Husseini had sent his men to greet us with a typical Kurdish welcome. Because of the Khan's allegiance to the Shah during troubled times, his henchmen are permitted to carry rifles. This is such an eagle face as Saladin might have borne. For Saladin, who fought against the Crusaders, was a Kurd. By sign language, we were given to understand that we should follow the escort to the Khan's headquarters in the village of Kas Nazan. The scenery grew wilder and more mountainous as we approached the Khan's stronghold. Large herds of sheep and goats testified to the prosperity of the Khan's tribe. These people are no longer simple herdsmen. The main difference between the way of life of Kurdish nomads and those like these who are settled in villages is that the village dwellers don't go in search of water. They bring water to themselves by an elaborate canal system. They are more conventional farmers, growing crops and fodder which is cut and stocked for winter use. Somewhere in those hills, grouped like the earth remnants of a Stone Age fort, lay Kaznazan, where our escort, well ahead of us, was bringing news of our coming to the Khan. Kurdish village dogs are fierce and a discouragement to strangers. They also tackle on sight jackals, wolves, or even leopards, which may threaten the flocks. The main street of Kaznazan was agog with curiosity at our arrival. The Khan had ordered a general holiday in our honor, and preparations were being made for a celebration. First, we had to meet our host. You might think that to come all this way just to ask a man how he tied his belt was a bit odd. But that's life, at least the English way of life.
The Khan, a rather embarrassing question, because he's got a very beautifully tied cummerbund. Could he show us how he ties it?
این زمینی که شما تشکر میکنه از این که مزاحمتون شده میگه پس از این همه لطفی در حق می‌کردی ممکنه که این کمربندتون چجوری می‌بندی
افتخار میکنیم اولا که تشریف آوردن و سرفرازم فرمودن خیلی خوشوقت هستیم و معذرت هم میکنیم اگه نتوانستیم که پذیرایی بکنیم قابل باشد و خدمت کمربند میفرماد
خیلی ممنون باز کنیم ببندیم که آقای توم ببینید چجوری
Well, that's enough.
همینقدر که حالا ببندیم
Kurdish women are very skilled at carpet weaving, naturally, and this communal activity goes on incessantly. And the weaver's bench is just the place for exchanging village gossip. Large carpets sometimes take many months to complete. In a wealthy community such as this, carpets are not necessarily sold as soon as made. they may be regarded as capital assets and stored by the various families against a rainy day. Next to the weaving shed, we found other women occupied in the daily task of making butter. A cow's hide, slung beneath a double trestle, serves as a churn. The brass pot used to catch the buttermilk and the butter was like the ones we had seen in the bazaar at Razaya. Outside in the courtyard, the invitation to a dance had been sounded by pipe and drum. As we watched, we had time to reflect on these splendid people, so little known to outsiders, who for 2,500 years have lived their turbulent lives impatient with external authority. Their whole history has been one of warfare and revolt. Wild as they had been known to be, this was a much more pleasant affair than the wild dervish excesses with which our journey started. In a very short time, I found myself being extremely attracted to these people. They were open, frank, and not in the least bit secretive. In the cool of the evening, when the dance was ending, the Khan and his relatives got up a party to hunt gazelle. We were about to witness such a scene as you can find depicted in those lovely illuminated Persian manuscripts of the earliest times. In this part of Persia, the dainty gazelle lie up in the shade of the rocks during the heat of the day. As evening falls, all unsuspecting, they come out to drink. Where there are trees, there the still pools are to be found, and it's there that the lovely gazelle are likely to be. But these fierce-looking horsemen have no intention of hunting this delicately beautiful creature to the death. They want to capture it alive and unharmed. A gazelle is highly prized as an ornament worthy to grace the loveliness of a Persian garden. Once caught, it will be carefully dispatched to a friend or relative to become a living part of the poetical Persian idyll, so much appreciated in a land where the desert and the Saône run side by side, an idyll which also includes moonlight, roses, and the song of nightingales.